Ecstasy was in very high demand. We couldn't get enough to sell. It started out with me just hawking them myself in the parties. And now I'm in $1 million house on the side of a mountain in Tucson. And it just completely drastically changes. The gangbangers, the Russian mafia, Mexican mafia, multiple houses blown up. Just endless mayhem. Non-stop every day.
Shaun Attwood is a former drug kingpin who grew up in England. As a boy, he dreamed about coming to America and getting rich. After college, he relocated to Phoenix, Arizona, where he got a job working as a stockbroker. But soon, he found himself rubbing shoulders with cartel players in the Phoenix underworld, and he began moving ecstasy imported from Amsterdam. By the time he was 30 years old, he was overseeing a multi-million-dollar a month ecstasy distribution ring that spanned the American Southwest. His crew even went toe-to-toe with Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was attempting to muscle in on their ecstasy market in Phoenix at the time. Shaun eventually got popped and spent nearly a decade in maximum security prisons in Arizona, some of the worst in the country. He started documenting his time in the system, and today he's not only England's most popular true crime podcaster, but he's a prolific author. He's published 17 books, all of which you can find online. And for an amazing bonus episode with Shaun, you know what to do. Hit that Patreon, baby. Patreon.com/TheConnectShow. Without further ado, this is a long time coming. It was a pleasure to sit down with my good friend, Shaun Attwood, right here in The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
So I walk into this room and there's a naked, hog-tied man and he just looks terrified. And I'm thinking, who are these guys, stepping on our toes? He told me, one call to Sammy the Bull and we can have you taken out to the desert. So that was the point then where I realized something heavy is going on. And we all just strapped up and masked up and just kicked the door in and just stormed into the house and took everything.
That's when I see lights behind me start to flash. And I didn't even think, I just hit it. I was driving like my life depended on it. Then I parked the car, hopped out, closed the door, and I started running.
And he pulls out a burner, a shank, like 6 inches. And he passes it to me. And he goes, here, that's yours. Don't ever leave the cell block without this. He was the reason I made it out of that place alive.
Because you lived in America for almost 20 years. That's where you did your dirt.
Yeah.
You came back. You've been home for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And you've talked to every manner of criminal, ex-criminal gangster from Britain that there is. So amongst the thieves, putting aside the intelligence agencies, right? Let's be mainstream and call MI6 and CIA. We'll call them legitimate because even though they're not elected, technically we elect the people that fund them. And
yeah.
Who of the underworld, who has a bigger, more important underworld? Who are the biggest gangsters, Americans or Brits?
In terms of the mafia, it's America.
Still?
Yes.
You think?
Definitely.
The Italian mafia?
No. I'm looking at it historically right now. If you're looking at it present, then it's the cartels.
But I think drug traffickers make more money in Britain. I really do.
That's just a tentacle of the cartel.
Sure. Okay, so who are those guys now? The Albanians?
What guys?
The people in Britain that are the cartel, that would be the equivalent of like what the Sinaloa cartel is to the United States.
We only have one area of the UK that was classified as a cartel, and that's part of Nottingham, and it's the area called Bestwood, the Bestwood cartel. And one of the founders of the Bestwood cartel is a guy called Dave Gunn, who I've interviewed. His brother, Colin Gunn, a co-founder of the Bestwood cartel, is doing life for murder.
Wow. These are white boys.
Yes.
Wow. And were they connected with South American suppliers?
Product was being brought in from foreign suppliers, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like Brits are crazier. I'm talking about, America's kind of an anomaly because the cartels are Mexicans who are not American nationals. They don't even live in America now, mostly. They have people who they distribute to and they go to prison, but the guys don't set foot in the U.S. for good reason. In Britain, I think people born here are just less afraid of the law because you do less time in prison.
You do less time in prison. There's not the guns like there is in America, which carries more serious consequences. But from my experience, I think the British are more reserved. From what I saw in America with my dealings with like the New Mexican Mafia, the things I walked in on or experienced with them, just like out of Rambo movies kind of things.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. We're going to get to that. The
All
New
right.
Mexican Mafia. I've never
Yeah.
even heard of them.
La M.A.
I've heard of La M.A.
Yeah.
That's the Mexican Mafia. Never heard of the new branch of that.
So you've got the old school Mexican Mafia.
Right.
And La M.A., the new Mexican Mafia was formed out of the California prison system.
Okay, so what is the distinction? Because La M.A.
There was a division with the old vying for control and power. They've got big long wiki pages where I read all this.
Yeah.
But the new Mexican Mafia, it's like Chicanos.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to look that up because the Mexican Mafia are Chicanos, and they formed in the California prison system.
But there was
Maybe this is the Arizona
there was a division.
branch.
No, there was a division in the Mexican Mafia, which created a new Mexican Mafia.
Wow.
The younger generation went
Okay.
against the old.
Yeah. As
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
As they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This just seems like a much better place to be a gangster in Britain because, as you say, there's less a chance you're going to get shot. I mean, getting knifed sucks,
Mhm.
right? That's an awful way to die. But you do less time, less gun violence, and there's more money in drugs. There's no money in drugs in the United States anymore. Not really.
So I disagree with all that.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I think that America is the biggest drug consumption country in the entire world. It always has been, and it gets worse every year. And in this country, we don't consume nowhere near as much as America. For example, being in Arizona on the border with Mexico, I could get a kilo of coke for like, $12,000, $15,000. This is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was proper pure stuff.
Mm.
When I got deported back to the UK in December 2007, people were trying to shove coke up my nose, and I was looking at it and the price of it and how cut it was. I didn't do it,
Right.
but I just, by the time it was getting here,
Yeah.
it's far more organized in the States than it is here.
You think so?
Definitely.
I mean, I know the consumer suffers here. The consumer's getting product, right?
Yeah.
And it's selling for a lot more.
Mhm.
So that's good for the supplier because you are so far away
Yeah.
and you have less competition. It seems like, in my theory is,
Mhm.
and it's fine to disagree. My theory is because there's so much less competition, it is more controlled here. There are groups that you have to know, and it's so much further away from South America that it's proprietary. These contacts in the ports and the other ways that it get in is much more hierarchical, and therefore the money is much greater. This is my theory because if you can get a key for $12,000, that means the guy down the street, your professor of archaeology at Arizona State, is also getting a key for $12,000. So it's just going to be a lot, just like everything in America. Yes, it's an enormous country. There's a huge market, but there's so much competition, and it's not good for a drug dealer when the price of coke is that low. It's not good for anyone.
So the profit,
except for the consumer.
What you're saying is the profit margin is higher to get it here.
Here, yeah,
Correct,
absolutely.
Yeah, but we've only got 60 million people.
So you have a limited consumer base.
Yeah.
I don't know. As an American, I'm like, if everybody's cutting their coke to 5%, why don't I just cut mine at 10 and take all the competition? Well, but look, you lived it over there, so
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
You remind me of me a little bit because you come from a middle class home, don't you?
So my mum was a stay-at-home mum in the beginning, and my dad was a door-to-door insurance salesman. And
All right.
We grew up in a terraced house, or row of houses just joined together, in a chemical manufacturing town called Widnes, which is almost equidistant between Liverpool and Manchester, slightly closer to Liverpool.
Okay, so not nearly the childhood I had. I grew up much, much more affluent than that. So would you call yourself like, I don't know, working class, lower middle class?
Widnes would be classified as a working class town.
But by the time you're 14, you're just a bright guy. So does money you're driving, did you feel poor? Is that why at an early age you're trying to get into the stock market and, jockeying to make money?
I don't think as a kid I had much of a concept. But when I watched that movie Wall Street, everything changed in my brain. And I'm watching Gordon Gekko give his speech. Greed is good. And then my aunt, who became my mentor, she lived in America and I used to visit her. She was like, Shaun, it's got to be in the business world. You get out here. You're from England. You can slit these Americans' throats. Just like programming.
Wow. Aunt. Your auntie.
My aunt. This is the aunt that when I was 16, she changed my date of birth in my passport in America when I was Arizona visiting her, took me out nightclubbing, and was introducing me to all these beautiful American women as Paul McCartney's nephew.
Wow.
My parents weren't happy with
Your aunt's a gangster.
Yeah, my parents were not happy about the passport thing.
What did your aunt do out there?
She's not out there anymore, and she doesn't want to have any revealing details revealed about her.
Okay. She was running Ecstasy for the cartels.
Let's say she was in fraud.
Oh, wow.
Not committing it, busting it. So she knew every trick in the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's why she was able to change the date of birth on your passport, I assume. Wow.
Because I arrived with a visitor's visa, 6-month visitor's visa. And she said, if they ask you for a visa, we'll just go to the printing shop and print H1B1 work visa into your passport.
Yeah.
But all they do is arrest Mexicans in Arizona, so they probably won't bust you. And that was true. Every day I was seeing on the news the Mexican migrants getting arrested.
Yeah.
I'm working on the top floor of this stock brokerage business with all these New York Italian feisty people. No deportation officers came there.
So you saw immediately, you were like, oh, this racism is pretty good.
Well, it was working in my favor, let's say.
Yeah, of course. It's all about taking advantage in America. Wow.
Yeah,
so most people are influenced by like Scarface, or for me, it was a movie called Paid in Full. You were influenced by Wall Street. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a great movie. Greed is good. So 15 years old, you go to visit her on a 6-month work visa and you didn't return for a lot of years.
No, the visit was just a visit. I finished university. I did business studies degree.
Yeah.
So I was like 2021 when I moved to America. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're taking ecstasy, right?
1991.
So you were raving.
So the rave scene started in this country while I was at university. And it just, prior to that, you had to line up at a nightclub and wear a shirt and a tie. And the bouncers would only let the pretty women in and they looked down on everyone. But then all of a sudden, the young people just smashing warehouses open, smashing airplane hangars open, putting the speakers in there, dressing in whatever the hell they wanted, and taking this new drug. And I'm seeing it on the TV every weekend. It's like all these wide-eyed young people just like grinning, and the cops like don't know what to do. And I'm like, I want a bit of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. When were you 19 when you first took it? 20?
Around then, yeah.
It was good. Good X.
So. A fellow out of my economics class at university said, come and check this out in Manchester. So I'm in my mum's little red car, just passed my driver's license test. And we go out there. And when we're in this room, all the people are just stood around. Like, there's this music. Boop, 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 boop. I'm thinking, this is crap, you know? All these people are stood like looking at the dance floor as if expecting an elephant to materialize. This music sounds like signals from outer space. What the hell am I getting into? And then my mate, he scored some pills and some wraps of speed. English speed is a lot different from crystal meth, and we can get to that later on. Because I left my friends in America who just arrived from England at my house and said, just help yourself to whatever's in the safe. And that ended in a crazy story. Yeah. Anyway, a gram of Billy Whiz speed, you neck it, just drink it with your drink, and your ecstasy pill. So I do all this. And then my mate, about 30 minutes in, he's like getting up and dancing. He's like, come on, dance. I had social anxiety. I would never dance. I was afraid, you know, to talk to people and make friends and stuff like that. And I'm like, no way am I dancing? No way am I dancing? And then about 10 minutes later, I just felt my knees buckle and I had to sit down. And I'm just sat there and I feel all my tension melting out of my shoulders and my back and everything just going like on fire, just like a lovely warmth. And I'm looking up people are just walking past me in the baggy jeans and smiling down at me, and I'm smiling up. And then I see my mate, and he's like, and then we just went and we went and danced, and I just never stopped after that. It became my religion.
Did you ever imagine that you would get into like selling it?
No, my goal was just to make $1 million in the stock market by the time I was 30 and fly my mates over from the UK, including Wildman.
Tell us who Wildman is.
So Wildman was a maniac who grew really big in his high school, and he had red dots in his head telling him to hurt people. He was picking school teachers up and putting them in rubbish bins. So they were so afraid of him, they had him outside raking leaves with the caretaker. Now, there was a little gang we called the Sweats. We watched that movie, The Warriors and the Wanderers, called ourselves the Sweats. But we were quite harmless in comparison.
Sure.
But Wildman's oldest brother was the leader of our gang. And Wildman would want to join because he was the youngest. He was 2 years younger than me. And he'd say to him, well, if you eat dog shit, we'll let you join. And he'd eat the dog shit, and then he'd beat the shit out of him and say, f off home, you're not joining. In the end, I splintered off from the Sweats, and me, Wildman, and Wildman's cousin Hammy became a little clique. And there's a quarry at the top of my town called Peck's Hill, and it's got a quarry, and there's a tree overlooking it, and we'd sit on the tree, and it was like, what are you going to do when you grow up kind of conversation. Hammy would ask us, and he'd say, you know, Peter Wildman, what are you going to do when you grow up? And he says, well, I've got red dots in my head telling me to hurt people. I'm going to go to prison. And Hammy would say to me, what are you going to? I'm going to go to America, make $1 million, fly you guys over. And you're not going to go to prison, Peter. I'm going to get you a job as a wrestler, and you're going to fight Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and the British Bulldog, and you'll be all right. But everything that we predicted on that tree came true. He went off to prison, and I went off and made the money in the stock market in America.
Wow.
And then eventually flew them over.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is profound for such a young man to like have those aspirations. That's like an immigrant story, you know?
Yeah, I was an immigrant. Yeah.
That is real. Yeah. Like you really saw America as the land of milk and honey that it is, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. How are you going to make this money from the stock market?
In the beginning, I wanted to be an investment analyst, but when I arrived in Arizona, I realized it was predominantly stockbrokers because of some very wealthy areas, Sun City, Paradise Valley, etc. And it was a lot of cold calling in the beginning. It was commission only in the beginning. I was living off cheese on toast and bananas and my student credit cards, worried I was going to have to come home. But 5 years in, I was the top guy in the office, grossing $500,000 a year, had my own secretary, cold callers. But that's when Wildman got out of prison and I flew him over and everything changed.
Wow. Yeah, that sucks at first. I could never be a cold caller in a boiler room.
Have you watched Wolf of Wall Street?
Of course.
It was just like that.
So everybody's doing coke too.
They had biker gangs dropping off meth. We'd get limos full of meth and strippers, and that was my indoctrination into the work world. So they'd have these power sales meetings in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning sales meeting, because the stock market, different hours from New York. And they'd have like these high producing brokers, chewing eyes popping out their heads like they were on coke. And our boss, Ronnie, looked like a Mafia Don. And they were like, you're only as big as your numbers on this board for the month. Smiling brokers make the most money. We had to have mirrors to smile in. Pacing brokers make the most money. We had 24-foot curly cords, so everyone was pacing all the time. Wow. If you're calling your wives, if you're calling your girlfriends, other brokers are calling your clients, and they'd pound the board. Look at these numbers on the board. How big are you on the board for the month? Almost knocking the board off the wall. And we were like fresh in the workforce. Young people. Like, this was like military style, Marine style indoctrination.
Crystal meth is for closers, they would tell you.
Yeah. I wasn't on the meth in the beginning, but towards the end of the 5 years, when I was introduced to meth, that made my sales go through the roof because my aggression, instead of asking for $10,000 on the phone, I asked for $100,000 on the phone.
And that works. That kind of audacity works in sales, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you sniffing it and then going to work, or are you smoking it?
Primarily, I was sniffing it and eating it.
And eating it?
Yeah.
What do you consume? How do you eat meth?
Just throw it in your mouth, chew it, and swallow it. Doesn't taste very nice.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And I ended up with like, I think I've probably had stomach ulcers or something at one point.
Is this biker dope? Is it speed, or is this now like the shit they get from Mexico?
All right, so we're going back to my introduction to meth was about 96, 97. So yeah, there was still biker dope then. There was bathtub crank. There was pink champagne. There was yellow lemon drop. And then we started to get it from the Mexicans later on, from California eventually, yeah.
Were you doing coke before meth, though? Like,
I was
as
never
a
a fan of coke. Too mild.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go balls, go big or go home, dude. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
I was never a drinker. I went straight to chemicals, but that was ecstasy and speed. And with the coke, when it came to coke versus meth, you're just doing lines and lines of coke. And meth, just one rail.
Yeah.
You're superhuman for the whole... I've got to add a disclaimer here. I now work in drugs education in schools and scared the living daylights out of kids with the horrors of the jail, Arpaio's jail, so they won't get involved in drugs and crime. I'm not trying to glamorize what I did.
That's okay. We'll put a disclaimer.
Thanks.
We're going to take that part out.
You bastard.
Wow. So you're 26 years old, rich for a 26-year-old, $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've made it? I mean, this is incredible.
I've got a twin turbo Mazda RX-7, like out of Fast and Furious 1 with the Bose surround system and this blue metallic paint that changes color. I'm at traffic lights and I'm on meth and I'm blasting like Commander Tom, German techno. And everyone's like looking at the motor saying, yeah, show us what it could do. Show us what it could do. As soon as the light changes, it's like a spaceship. That was the meaning of life to me at that age.
And God, you must have loved America. Look at what it's done for me.
And the English accent, the women.
You get laid now.
The English accent.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You fool a lot of women. I know a lot of women that complained about the STDs they got from these British blokes with these kind accents.
Oh dear.
So, and there's nothing, it's all material. It's perfect. It's the perfect American immigrant success story because it's completely vacuous. It's all based on materialism and drugs. And the high.
Until Wildman arrives. And it just completely drastically changes.
It gets worse.
It goes to the next level. I mean, there's nothing yet till he arrives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you brought Wildman over.
Yeah.
What about your other friend?
Hammy comes later on.
Okay.
And he's the one who I leave with the safe. And he's supposed to stay for a month, but that trip ends abruptly.
Yeah. Did you expect to live out your life in America? Did you expect to become a citizen?
Yeah.
Did you get your citizenship?
All my marriages never lasted long enough.
You were marrying for the green card.
No, but incidentally, they never lasted long enough.
Yeah. How could they?
They couldn't. We were unstable.
Yeah, I'll say. So Wildman comes over. What is the plan with him?
So I want to get him a job as a wrestler. I'm still idealistically thinking this. I get him a shared house near the Georgian Dragon British pub in central Phoenix, thinking he'll just have a peaceful drink with the expats while I focus on getting him employment. What happens is, me and my girlfriend go over there one night and a bunch of Mexicans open the door and I say, where's Peter? And they're looking at us like, no Peter. I'm like, yeah, Peter lives here. Where's Peter? No Peter, no Peter. And we can see they got guns. So me and my girlfriend start backtracking across the road. And Wildman just bounces across the road all happy. I'm like, Peter, what's happened to your place? We could have got shot there. What's going on? And he said, they're the local crack dealers. They like to move around a lot. They're buzzing because I can do $100 crack rock in one breath. It goes sizzle, 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 tingle, tingle, and it calms down my red dots. So they're giving me as much free crack as I want while they stay in my place and I'm over here in their place. And the one at the back, he's from Colombia. He's running them and he wants to invest in the stock market.
So not only is Wildman better for society when he's high on crack, he's not thinking about killing people. He's just found you a client. Well, this is a
like
good,
like the Cali Cartel.
this is a good friend. Wow. Okay.
A client I can do without.
So this guy ends up being part. You find out this guy is part of the
No,
Cully
I have no clue
organization.
because they don't volunteer that information.
No, of course not.
But I've written a series of books about Escobar and the Cali Cartel, and it was the Cali Cartel dominated the export of the white around that period of time. So I assume there might have been some.
Right, because by 1995, 96, Medellin is basically disbanded as an organization. Pablo Escobar's dead.
Yeah.
Right. And now Cali is the juggernaut.
Yeah.
They're the biggest cartel on earth. So this makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what becomes of this?
So a month later, my aunt calls me at the office and says, Peter's place is headline news. Wow. Someone's been shot dead. There's yellow tape around it. You need to get your ass up there. It might be him. He might be dead. So I sped up there in my RX-7. Boom, 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 boom. See all the people, police tape, cops, media. I got sketched out and went back to work. And I waited until later in the day when that had all calmed down. So there was blood on the doorstep. I go into the living room and there's a homicide detective talking to Peter. And we had a conversation with the homicide detective. The homicide detective told me one of the most horrific stories I've ever heard in my life. Don't know if you wanted me to give you that as an aside or...
No.
Okay. Once that is all finished, I say, and the homicide detective's gone, I say to Peter, what happened? And he said, a couple came over to buy crack from the Mexicans, but the Mexicans are back over the street. So the female went over the street to buy the crack, leaving the male with me. And the male had a gun on him. And I said to him, I'm from England. I don't know how guns work. Can you show me how guns work? And he said, yeah, the safety's on, and pulled the trigger and shot himself in the head.
Yeah. There you go. This is America, folks.
And just died right in front of him on the step.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it was going to happen one way or the other if you're that stupid. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. No harm, no foul. It's just a crackhead. How do you eventually, how the f- do you go from drug addict, but legitimate businessman to, you know, what later becomes, heavily involved in drug trafficking?
So that took 4 years.
Was it progressive? Would you say, like, you looking back on it, it was a slippery slope?
All right. So Wildman's first visit, the mayhem just escalates from the last story I told you until he's living in Rancho Marietta, which is in Tempe. And we've took over this apartment.
How's he making a living?
He doesn't make a living.
Okay.
Any amount of money put in front of him, he spends it right away. And any amount of drugs you put in front of him, he consumes right away. He isn't even safe to drive. I've told people don't let him drive. And one of my bouncers let him drive. And he just tried to drive it into oncoming traffic right away. Yeah. So anyway, at this apartment complex, Rancho Marietta, Wildman invites in all the homeless people, all the local crackheads, the striptease girls, the Native American, transgender, street walking prostitutes, the gangbangers, the Russian mafia, Mexican mafia. Everyone's in there. And that is where I meet the connections for my criminal enterprise. He gets deported for being a menace to society and banned from America for life.
As he should.
And he's gone then for a couple of years while I'm building.
So were you relieved that he had left? This guy that's bringing chaos into your life? Or did you not think like that? Like, was your life chaotic enough to where, like, it was just kind of natural to have such a psychopath around you?
Because I bonded with him at such a young age, it was like, if someone walked in the room, me and Wildman could read each other's minds, and we would know what was going to happen next. Like if he was going to knock this person out, or if he was going to like this person, I could just tell. When he was about to do something, his eyebrow would go up. His face would stay completely calm, but one eyebrow would just go up, and that meant he was going to do something insane. So to answer your question then, it ran much deeper than it just him being an irritant with his crazy behavior. It was like we were almost one mind. He would say to me, I am you and you are me. And I'd say it back to him. And when he died, it was strange because it was like part of me was gone. But that was a part of me that understood me and everything I've been through. And when he died, that was gone. It was really intense for me to lose him.
Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, you know Mando by now. Mando is my favorite deodorant. It's the only deodorant I use. As soon as they sent me some to try, I was immediately hooked. I'm a customer now. Let me tell you why they're different and better than the leading brands that you get at the grocery store. First of all, it's safe everywhere. It controls odor for 72 hours. That's 3 days last time I checked. I'm no mathematician. It comes in a bunch of different flavors: bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, Clover Woods, or you can get the unscented kind. It was created by a doctor who realized that normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. By the way, you can use this everywhere. It's full body deodorant. This is the trend now. You can put them in your armpits or on the bottoms of your feet and your scrotum sack. Okay, so it's completely revolutionized deodorant, all right? It's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, cruelty-free, dye-free, and it's vegan. Check it out. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. Comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and they give you free shipping. This is a no-brainer. It's perfect for the holidays. It's perfect for a stocking stuffer. It's perfect just to become a customer, okay? Upgrade your funky ass. You ready to make Mando your new preferred deodorant? New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Mitchell, MITCHELL, at shopmando, SHOPMANDO.com. Again, that's promo code Mitchell at shopmando.com. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. If you fire on action like I do every week, Sundays for football or during the week now for the NBA, I am using Prize Picks. You guys know them if you're a fan of the show. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. What? They're giving money away. Do you think James Cook will get more than 60 yards next week? How about Joe Burrow passing for more than 1.5 touchdowns? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. And for you who are new to the show or new to Prize Picks, just remember, this is not for sharks or Vegas pros. This is the easiest way to fire on action. You just pick more or less on player stat projections. That's it. Let me give you a quick example. This week, I have Jaden McDaniels getting more than 5.5 rebounds and assists, and I have Kevin Durant scoring more than 23 points. Boom, that's it. I could have chose less then. Check this out. If you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. There's literally no reason you shouldn't do this. Download the app today and use code CONNECT, CONNECT, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, that's code CONNECT to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So before that, though, he leaves your life. He gets deported. Your life continues.
Yeah.
How did you start dabbling in drug dealing as you were still working as a stockbroker?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because, I don't know, stockbroking is not always this consistent pile of money. It's got vagaries and, it ebbs and flows. But why did you choose to sell drugs? Were you not, was the money drying up in stocks?
There's a thing called Bob's burnt out broker syndrome. So when you're going full tilt on meth and you're in the office all day and you're making all that money, it gets to a point where you just feel completely burnt out. And then Wildman came over, which opened the release valve for me to go full on partying. And I made a decision. Do I want to stay in the rat race and work these long hours? Actually, we've tried to test the ecstasy market while Wildman was there. And that experiment turned out to be very fruitful. I thought there's an arbitrage opportunity here. I can go full on in that direction. And that's what I did. But there was I was still a stockbroker when I met the New Mexican Mafia guys. And there was like a turning point in my life at that point because I saw some horrific things that happened with them.
You saw murders?
I'll give you an example then. So I was at the office one day and I had a guy dealing ecstasy for me called Fish in Rancho, Marietta. By now, we've got multiple apartments in that complex we're utilizing. So partying in one, selling out of another, stash house another. So Fish calls me and he says, can you grab Wildman and Seth? We've got a situation. Seth was another broker, really big guy, started hanging out with Wildman, got on the meth and threw a computer at our boss and got fired. So then he was full-time hanging out with Wildman after that. So I said, right, I'll try and get him and I'll come right over. By the time I got over there, Fish and his girlfriend answered the door. She's crying and I think someone's done something to her and they want Wildman to beat the guy up. And then I hear this noise. Zzz, zzz, zzz. And I'm like, what's that coming from the other room? They're like, you best go look. So I walk into this room and there's a guy I've met through Wildman's apartment parties. We'll call him Alex. He's got stately silver swept back hair, older Mexican-American looking guy. Bunch of Mexican guys. He's giving them orders in Spanish. They've all got cattle prods. And there's a naked, hog-tied man with a rockabilly quiff on the floor. And when he gives the instruction in Spanish, they electrocute him. Piss shoots out of his eyes almost shoot out of his head. He's gagged, so he can't make too much noise. And he just looks terrified. So seeing that in Scarface, that kind of thing, but then walking into it, it's a bit different. It's visceral, isn't it? I was crapping myself. I've never, ever claimed to be a gangster. I'm a business studies graduate, a stockbroker gone wild. I had gangsteritis. I've watched too much Scarface type stuff. And I'm seeing this now, and it's the real world, and I'm crapping myself. So I'm thinking, if they see I'm crapping myself, I'm a liability. I've got to put on a brave face here. So I'm looking at Alex, and he's just giving me this welcome to the family smile. So I say, looks like you've got the situation under control. I'll tell Wildman he doesn't need to come, or if you need any help, let us know. And I've got to get back to work. And he was cool with that. And I just walked out of that room, heart going like crazy. Fish and his girlfriend are there. And I'm like, what's going on, man? What's going on? And he said, the guy on the floor was one of my customers. As you know, I'm selling your product. I'm also selling product for them. The guy came, broke in, he stole your product, he stole their product. I called you, I called them, and they got here first. So I'm driving back to work thinking, that guy's probably going to get killed or something. Wow. Yeah, but what happened was, I later found out, they contacted his roommates and said, 10 grand or he's getting taken out to the desert, and they paid up.
Yeah, I mean, you must have felt like you're getting in over your head.
I did, but I still didn't decide not to go down that road. I parked the car in the car park at the stockbrokerage, and the boss's secretary, she's getting in her car, and I'm counting ecstasy cash on my lap. And the next day, the boss calls me into the office, and he says, Shaun, you're on a crossroads of your life right now. You can keep doing the hard work and build on your success and go up here, have a nice house in Paradise Valley like you've always dreamed of. Or you can go down here, and his eyes widen like you're going to go to hell, basically. He knew, yeah.
Wow. He could just see it in I'm sure you looked like, people on drugs that think they're getting away with it are like, I'm fooling everyone. And people are like, what are you talking about? There's a bird nest in your hair.
I've looked at pictures from then. I do look a bit like Moby on crack.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you bald back then?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, God damn. So does that affect your performance then? Being on drugs and then spending part-time dabbling in, well, not really dabbling, but really like selling ecstasy. Does that up your stockbroking? And when do you eventually have to leave that?
My heart was gone from the stockbroking.
Yeah.
So I just let it all crumble and walked away from it. And one day I left my house, my girlfriend, and my job, and moved into a secure high rise in downtown Phoenix. and didn't let anyone I worked with know what had happened. It got to the point where one of them called my parents and said that my car had been found burnt out in Mexico, and my parents were really panicked, and they didn't have a way to get hold of me because I was going off the grid, you know, into this underworld, and they thought I was dead.
But why? Why did you do that?
Because of my criminality. I wanted to sever all ties and go into the underworld without anyone being able to trace me.
But as a challenge?
Because I didn't want to get arrested.
Okay, but why even go down that road in the first place if you've made a lot of money as a stockbroker? Why not just quit and then, figure out the next best thing in the legal world?
Pablo Escobar was worth billions, and his brother Roberto said, why don't we just buy our own island and kick back and retire, and we won't get killed, and we won't spend the rest of our lives in prison? And Pablo Escobar said, I put the president of Colombia in power. I've got thousands of people working for me. I'm running it, and you want me to just kick back on some island? It's ego. The answer is ego. I didn't need the money. I had a lot of money in the stock market. I thought I was living in a movie. I'd say to my mates, we're like living in a movie now, like Pulp Fiction, something like that. We thought we were characters. And the more drugs we did, the more our egos inflated. And I surrounded myself with people doing equally insane behavior. Yeah. And we all reinforced that delusion.
Yeah, that's right. Delusion is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I find these stories incredible because I never did drugs while I was a drug dealer. It's probably what made me really good at it. And, even though I was good at getting away, I was really conscious of what I was doing, But if you look at successful drug traffickers, drug addiction almost always accompanies it. Wouldn't you agree? I don't think I've talked to one person.
Definitely.
I mean, Chapo Guzman was I think he was pretty sure he was a cokehead, up to the highest drug lords. It almost always, maybe not those guys from Cali. They were like the shrewdest criminals you can get, but who knows? Underneath that veneer, it's probably some dark behavior. That makes sense. You're living in a delusion. That's perfectly said. You're 27 or 28 when you walk away. When you go
away from Stockbroking.
When you go
96, 97. I was born in 68.
Okay, so you're 28 years old.
Yeah.
Mint Mobile. Guys, I don't even need to read the copy they sent me in. They have phone plans for $15 a month. That's all I have to say. I have more than $15 a month, but I'm still going to get a Mint Mobile phone because I like paying $15 a month. And this isn't some cheap prepaid liquor store burner phone for drug dealers back in 2010, okay? This is like the real thing. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text. It's all delivered in the nation's largest 5G network, too. So this is exactly like getting one of those gigantic telecommunications brands, but for $15 a month, okay? Do this. I know you people have at least $15 a month. If you don't, stop watching this show, go out and scrape up some cans and take them back to the store, then cash that in to get your Mint Mobile phone, okay? Oh, and I forgot to mention, you can keep your same phone, keep your same number, and keep all of your contacts. The only thing that's going to change is the extra cash in your pocket. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/connect. That's mintmobile.com/CONNECT. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/connect.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 50 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right. So Ecstasy was the plan, or did you see Coke as a good opportunity?
No, because my thing was I'm a club drug person.
Mm-hmm.
The big boys have got the green and the white lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go stepping on their toes. Because when I did form an alliance with the New Mexican Mafia, we were getting things off them for our people, and they were getting things off me for their people. And it worked out perfectly because we were all the stuff we were getting was opposites.
Right. Okay. So what were you getting for them?
So for them, I was getting the E. The first time. So when I walked into the house the first time, the guy who answered the door looked at me and he's like, basically, we'd helped this guy's brother escape from the cops one night. He'd pulled a gun on a cop in a party place that we had. The cop had smelt weed from outside and said, no one move. And he was about to call cops. And this guy just puts a gun to the cop's face and says, the only one who's not leaving is you. Everybody run. So we all ran off into the night. This is that same complex Rancho Marietta.
Mm-hmm.
I ran to Fish's apartment, the guy who from the earlier story. Fish is dealing for me. So the cops are going to come here. We need to flush out himself. Next thing, bam, bam, bam on the French window. And it's G-Dog, the guy who pulled the gun. And he schooled us. He's like, turn the lights off. They can't get a warrant that fast. If they knock on the door, just don't answer, turn the TV off. And that's what we did. And the cops came. They went. And I said to him, I've got a house in Phoenix. You're too hot here. Let's go and do some meth and shoot some pool. And we did, and we bonded. And at the end of it, he said, because you and your friends helped me and my brothers have got your back. And then it was so many months later, I went to the house with the lowriders outside of it. The brother answers the door, mean face. Here's my English accent and lightens up a bit because they're very suspicious. Takes me through to the living room. They got a rocket-propelled grenade launcher on the TV. There's all kinds of scales and all kinds of weapons and slabs of this, slabs of that. They were doing the coke, the crystal meth, and the hydroponic weed, which were things that we utilized, but we didn't mass market. I was mass marketing mostly the ecstasy, but I could also get ketamine, acid, mushrooms and things like that.
Wow.
So the first time these guys were all in the, wife beater vest, big tattooed Mexican-American guys with chains on, looking at me like they wanted to eat me.
Yeah.
And it was always so lethal in there. I always wanted to get out fast.
Yeah.
But the night they did ecstasy for the first time, they ran out and they said, come back and bring more. So I go in there while they're all blazed on ecstasy. And they were all smiling and picking me up like big sweaty teddy bears.
Hey,
trying
man,
to tell,
we love the French, yo.
Trying to tell me their life stories and everything.
Yeah. Dude, when Cholos like you, they really like you.
That was the only night they liked me. It went back to lethal every time I went over there.
Okay, so it sounds like you were supplying them. They would supply you if you had like a coke deal or a weed deal or whatever. But you wanted to focus on ecstasy. This is what is going to be your $1 million racket.
Yes.
Who are you getting it from at this time?
All right. So there was a guy called Acid Joey, who was another friend of mine, dear friend who's dead. Stocky Navajo guy, but he was the best dancer. The reason I clicked up with him, I saw a circle of people around him watching him dance. It was like his body was fluid. He should have been in music videos. I waited until he went outside and I said, I want whatever you're on. And he could get like 50 to 100 max of ecstasy pills from local dealers. He found out where they were getting from out of LA.
Okay.
So 2 carloads of us went to LA to test a bigger deal, like 500 to 1,000.
Yeah.
There was Seth, there was Acid Joey in one car, and me and Wildman in the other. All those guys are dead now. And we get to this guy's house, and he's not there. Wildman's like, I'm just going to smash his door in and take his. Who the does he think he is, leaving us out here? I'm like, keep the wild man under control, guys. Come on now. And the guy showed up. Have you seen that movie Point Break?
Oh my God. Of course. That's like every American kid's bar mitzvah watching that movie.
He was with a bunch of surfer gangster dudes. I'd already been pre-instructed to go in on my own. So I say to Wild Man, look, if I'm not out in like 15 minutes, then kick the door in. Because I didn't know what I was getting into. So I go in and I said, can I try a pill? Because I always chew my stuff without a drink so I can taste it. Because I know what ecstasy tastes like. He's like, do you want a drink? I'm like, no, I don't want to chase it. I'm just going to chew it. And I chewed it and it tasted right. And he brings out the biggest bag of pills I've ever seen so far in my career. And I hand over the bills. And I remember the pill hitting me on the drive home. This was before I had any smarts about smuggling. I'm in my twin turbo with the first seat. We've got Renaissance, Sasha and Digweed playing on the surround sound. And the ecstasy kicks in. And I just feel the fur tickling the back of my head.
Sure.
Next thing, my eyes are rolling. I'm going at like 120 miles an hour in this twin turbo driving home with no. If I'd have got pulled over then, it would have all ended right then.
Yeah, it would have saved you.
Would have saved me.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Wow. So now you've got an LA connection. What do you pay? What does a pill cost if you buy like 1,000 ecstasy pills, a boat of ecstasy as they call it? What did that cost you back then
the
in
boat
LA?
terminology was introduced into Arizona through the Gravano enterprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So back then we called them flyers before the boats.
Flyers.
Yeah, like rave flyers.
Okay.
Yeah. So a flyer in the clubs was going for 25 to 30. If I'm buying 1,000 out of LA, depending upon how well I know the person, because I ended up with a few LA connects, like anywhere from like 8 to 12, it varied around there, I would say.
That's your price.
This was back in the 90s, middle 90s.
Okay, so that's a middleman price. That's not a great price for what I know the real top dogs were paying.
Yeah.
We're getting them for like $2 a pill.
Well, that's why I started to go to Holland.
Right. So how long did that take you?
That took me
to figure that out.
That took me a year or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of bankroll did you have to go over there with? Like, did you have
I couldn't leave the country because I was an illegal alien.
Right. So you can't leave America.
No.
So how did that connection get going? Well, first of all, how did you build up? You've got a connection in LA now. How do you build up the business in a world like Ecstasy where it's all depends? Your profit margin really comes from the sales directly to those people at the rave that are paying $25 or $30 a pill. So how do you level up? Because you certainly have workers now. You're not.
You're on about at the peak of it.
No. How do you build it up to where you're now? How do you expand?
So, Ecstasy was in very high demand. We couldn't get enough to sell.
Okay.
So we had to go through Holland for that reason as well. Instead of getting 1,000 to 5,000, now I can get tens of thousands.
Wow.
And then at the peak of it, it's costing me not like, $2 now.
Yeah.
$2-3 with the costs of smugglers and legal costs, that kind of things. So let's just say I'm with all my costs of smugglers and everything. Let's say it's $3 it's costing me.
Yeah.
I've divided it like a corporation. I'm drawing on my business studies degree now. So I've got the heads of all the different factions of the corporation. So a head of a faction might get 5,000 on tick for 10, and I'm paying 3. So 7 is my profit times 5. But if I'm bringing in tens of thousands per shipment and I've got a dozen factions, for example, the largest amount we ever brought in was 40,000 in computer towers through Mexico. My profit on that was in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, because over 12 people, 35,000 a shot. It's 450,000 to you right there.
They had a lawyer to do this documentary with the Gravanos that's coming out in January in America. They had a lawyer go over my paperwork and ask me questions to ascertain my profit. I'd never done that before. And they calculated it was at least 5 million, and the street value of the drug sold was in the tens of millions.
Sure.
Because I had quite a long run. The Gravanos didn't have a very long run. They were in and out and arrested.
Really?
But my run went from 96, 97 to May 16, 2002.
Right.
So even though the deals weren't massive, over time it added up.
It added up.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to turn for your bosses in the corporation to turn over 40,000 ecstasy pills?
It would depend on the amount of raves that were going on at the time, the demand from the clubs, the strip clubs, the gay bars. We had all that locked down.
Wow.
Yeah. So
did they? And so it was
within weeks.
It was their responsibilities to give it to workers in those places
Exactly.
that would pass them out.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you were out of there. You were invisible at this point.
It started out with me just hawking them myself in the parties.
Yeah.
And now I'm in $1 million house on the side of a mountain in Tucson. Down the mountain range is Paul McCartney, incidentally now. It's back in my life.
Wow. Yeah. No, right. Yeah.
And I'm
Liverpool
one of my neighbors, what was it? Bonanno Senior was one of my neighbors as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're a 30-year-old
around
kid?
Then. Yeah.
Was that your first million? Was that in the Ecstasy, or did you actually become a millionaire off stockbroking?
I invested in 30,000 shares of a company called Pacific Satellite Non-Satra, around $5 a share. And during the dot-com bubble, it went up to over 50. And that was just one of my holdings.
And you were putting ecstasy money behind it, or this is before the X?
I would fly people from the UK And I had like a spider's web of bank accounts, credit accounts, car loans, house rentals, stock market accounts. We had investments in clothing, Rave clothing, music stores. So there was this spider's web that was just like a money go around to launder.
Yeah. But you really got your money into those stocks and you hit that arbitrage.
Yes.
Wow. Do you think you made more money doing that than actually in the sale of the ecstasy?
I think during the dot-com bubble, me and my wife would wake up and we'd look at where the stock market was, and I'd be up like 6 figures on the day from the previous day. But that all collapsed as well.
That collapsed almost as soon as the drugs did.
It all collapsed together, and my psychology collapsed as well.
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So, did you cash out, or were you holding the bag in terms of stocks when the bubble collapsed in I think 2001 or something?
So not only a lot of it was spent, and I'm glad because the cops would have took everything anyway, but I was cranking it on margin and trading options, so it was geared. So when the market fell, my stuff got wiped.
Wow.
Yeah.
How you made your connection in Holland.
Yeah.
Why is Holland just the rudimentary American that knows something about drugs and crime knows that the Netherlands is the spot where they make the X, right? I don't know about today. I think it's a little different because it's kind of MDMA, but why was Holland specifically in the 80s, 90s, 2000 the spot for global ecstasy manufacturing?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just grew up. I just grew up with the pills were always from Holland. That's what they told us. White Doves, Euro dollars, Mitsubishis. I don't know what caused Holland to become the hub, but it was the hub.
How did you make your first connection there?
So because I couldn't leave the country, I sent people from my enterprise to Holland to get samples. We bought testing kits from a website called Dance Safe. And when you test the pill, it turns this like blue-purple color, and you know a good pill should be 100, 125 milligrams of MDMA and clay. Wow. Yeah, so that's how we ascertained what was pure.
That simple. Just something you ordered on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it wasn't hard to find a purveyor over there.
No, they just went out to the clubs and met the dealers. It was really easy.
Yeah.
And then we brought the samples back and we experimented with smuggling methods.
Okay, tell us about that.
So we had stock market annual reports hollowed out and pills glued into the stock market annual reports. That was one of the methods we used.
How many pills can you get over doing that, though?
We're not at the big...
Sure.
We're just testing and...
Sure.
Like hundreds and hundreds, low thousands.
Okay.
Yeah. We had people with them strapped to the bodies, coming through customs, with them strapped for the bodies. In the end, we lost a few people at airports, and that's when we got advised to bring them through Mexico.
Okay, tell us about Mexico. How did the operation work? How did you get it from Holland to port in Mexico?
All right, so we had to pave the way in Mexico first because I realized there was danger down there. And I know now, from researching my books that all of Mexico is divided into plazas and you've got to be good with the locals to smuggle through it. So I sent Wild Man and Wild Woman down there to pave the way. My friend said, if they behave like they behaved in America, the Mexicans will kill them. And there were some situations, but they did pave the way.
Who's Wild Woman?
So Wild Woman's done 2 interviews on my channel and she stopped because she doesn't want to relive it. But she is from Liverpool, a Scouser, extremely tough. In fact, the cops have got surveillance footage of her chasing Wild Man down the street with like fans trying to smash his head in. Okay. They were both extremely violent people.
Were they in a relationship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Collectively called the Wild Ones.
Yeah, this all makes sense. They're perfect for each other, quite literally.
When they weren't trying to kill each other or kill other people.
So romantic, though. Now, you sent them down there just blind?
Yeah.
To get the blessing to move product through? Was that the idea?
Well, they were hot as well in Arizona, so there was multiple reasons. So I send them down there with a guy who finds them a place to stay. There's no telephone communication for us either with them. We've just got pages and things like that. And I send him back with supplies a week later. And he says, the house has been blown up. The Mexicans have killed them. And I think, oh my God, he's terrified. He said, I got the hell out of there. I didn't want to die, blah, blah, blah. So I had a guy working for me. We can call him Frankie Flowers or something. He was an ex-US military sniper, Chicano guy, spoke Spanish, knew what was up. And he went down there and he talked to the locals and ascertained that the Wildmans they just moved in. They'd had a fight and they stopped for a cigarette break. And the gas pipes aren't as strong as in England and America. So during the fight, a gas pipe had cracked. And when they stopped for the smoke break, a carpet of blue flame just emerged. And he grabbed her. And as they're leaving the front door, it's just like out the movies, just the windows all. And then they said just like this prehistoric, like pump fire engine came.
Wow.
Ages later, which didn't.
They're passing buckets of water like a movie from the 1950s.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So how did this resolve? How did you figure out, who to talk to? Because those are drug routes that are controlled by whatever cartel is operating in that plaza.
Yeah.
So, and we found out just through the course of doing the show that drug routes mean they come in, they kill a bunch of people, they pay off the military and the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Now they own that route. And then guys like you are paying them a tax to move products safely through. Is that accurate?
At the peak
in your
of
experience?
At the peak of it, they were running Wildman round in military jeeps, calling him El Oso de Burr because of his fighting style. And he paid everyone off with ecstasy and acid.
He was paying off military?
Everyone down there that was local, he was paying off with ecstasy and acid, and the military didn't come in. I mean, these were like cartel, like guys who wanted to do business with us. They wanted me to start collaborating with them with coke, which wasn't my thing. I was just like playing along just to get the ecstasy through there.
Wow.
But they were in awe of Wildman because he had no fear of anybody.
Wow. Yeah.
We had a big shipment coming in. And I was telling everyone to lay low and just behave themselves. And Wildman comes storming into the condo with a crack rock, and he opens it. I've just been ripped off. I said, Peter, calm down. It's a $10 crack rock. I don't care if it's a $10 crack rock or 10,000 ecstasy pills. Nobody rips me off. And his eyebrows up here and his veins are popping out of his head. And he's a big guy, 29.5 stone. 1 stone is 14 pounds. And he was 6'2" when he died, 29 stone, like this big, not a bodybuilder big, just like
massive.
He was shaped like a burr.
Yeah.
Shaped like a burr. And he's like, well, take me back to this guy. And I'm like, Pete, if I take you back, promise you won't do anything. Driving down the main street, there's cops on that side of the road, there's cops on the other side of the road, there's the dealer who's ripped him off. I'm like, Pete, there's cops everywhere. If you do anything, I'm out of here. I'm not going to do anything. Vehicle comes in slowly to this bus stop. He uses the motion of the vehicle to smash the crack dealer's head into the bus stop pole and knocks him out and jumps out and just starts mauling him like he's like doing this burr thing. And I just took off. So I get back to Wild Woman and another one of my guys, Cody Bates, who's also dead. And we're going to have to bail him out of jail now. The cops surely are going to have him for this. He did it right in front of them. And we're just getting ready to send Cody up to the jailhouse. And Wildman just walks in. Why did you drive off, you bastard? I'm like, Pete, you just did that in front of all of the police. They're all mates of mine. I'm giving them ecstasy and trips. And
yeah.
So he had it like that.
Wow, he had it like that.
Towards the end of it, he didn't have it like that. There was a local guy whose mum was with the Mer.
The what?
The Mer, M-A-Y, Mer. The guy who runs things, the local Mer.
Oh, the mayor. Gotcha.
Mer. Yeah. And her son.
Did you ever lose that accent when you were over there?
I tried to maintain it. But my original accent, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah, I don't
My
think
original
so.
accent was fish, chips, and peas, love, salt and vinegar. That's why I had to change.
Yeah.
So Wildman hired the son of this woman who was dating the mayor
Mm-hmm.
to go on a trip to Holland. He was tweaked out and getting high on the supply, and he was dropping pills. I don't know the full story, but this is what Wildman told me. But he got busted, and then it turned for them down there. They ended up living on the beach, and they just snuck back over the border before 9/11.
How did you get the ecstasy to Mexico? How did they all that side handle it? Did you have any involvement or any input?
No, we handled everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about it.
So when we had a few people busted internationally, bringing it into America, we consulted a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, here's what you got to do. And he was the one who explained to us about, spring break and flights and routes and Hermosillo Airport and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
So I rented a beachfront property on the Sea of Cortez, which the Wildman's demolished. And the owner of that became a witness against me in my grand jury indictment. But that's later in the story. Got this beachfront condo down there where now I can go and party. And we've got flights going from Hermosillo to Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
From Mexico City, it's Air France to Paris, and then the train to Holland. Because flying out of Holland is the red flag for ecstasy.
Right.
So if you're coming from Paris or London, it's more secure.
They're not looking at you as hard.
Exactly. So then they come back from Paris, Mexico City.
Hang on. How do they load the ecstasy? They're just checking it in their luggage?
This was before 9/11.
Right.
We had people who just put them in pillowcases in their luggage. But if you wanted to be more secure, like some computer towers.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally, that's it. And then they just check their bag and they put it under the plane.
Yeah, but after 9/11, everything changed. You couldn't do that anymore.
Of course.
So they'd fly then, Air France, Mexico City, Hermosillo. Hermosillo, then we would switch a room. So we've got this property in Puerto Penasco, Rocky Point. The pills would be brought down there, especially with spring break. That was ideal,
Totally. Just so many gringos around.
We've got these SUVs, University of Arizona stickers, diving tanks.
Uh-huh. Get the whole backstory. Yeah.
Student-looking people, clean cut. And if it's backed up, they're getting through. They're getting through. We never lost anyone bringing it in.
Who did you send to drive it over the border? Are these also white Arizonans?
They had to
people?
Be. They had to be the most clean cut. Cody Bates, who became my right-hand guy, who's dead now, he just looked like some preppy, clean cut. He was getting pulled over all the time with loads. And he just talked to the cops.
Yeah.
Get out of it. Yeah.
Sounds a lot like my story, man.
And remember, I'm not supposed to leave the country because I'm an illegal alien.
Yeah.
But I was going into Mexico because I knew I'm a white person. And when I got to the border, are you a US citizen? Yeah. And I'd flash my driver's license. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you didn't need a passport back then.
Didn't need jack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How much would you pay these mules?
So it would depend upon their circumstances. Some of them were in debt to me, so it would cancel debts.
Yeah.
Some would be paid thousands, and they were buzzing just to get a trip to Holland. They were competing to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really are running a continuing criminal enterprise.
I was charged with that.
Yeah, I bet you were.
There was over 200 people involved. Wow. Over 100 were arrested in separate groups eventually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many you think you're bringing in one run from Holland every month?
It's sporadic. It depends. How fast they go.
Yeah.
Whether there's any dramas, whether there's, situations, because situations did arise, like when the Gravanos entered the market.
Okay. So tell us about that. Tell us about, for people that don't know or not aware that can't remember the history of Sammy Gravano. Most people don't know that after he turned state's evidence against John Gotti famously in 1991 or 92, whenever it was, Gotti goes to prison for life. The Mafia is never the same. He goes into witness protection, but gets shipped to Arizona. But I think a couple years later, this is maybe 7-8 years later, he decides to get into the ecstasy game.
So we've got the locals locked down, And that's by virtue of there was a lot of competing cliques in the Arizona rave scene. I'd pull up in my twin turbo and they'd be asking me questions and they started calling me the Bank of England. So I started to invest in their projects. Or if they had beefs, then we'd call them in. Me and Wildman would adjudicate and settle their beefs. But through these relations, that's how I had a couple of hundred local people working for me. So any information, even when I was not hawking the pills myself, any information, any dramas, any outsiders trying to come in, all information flows to the top very rapidly when you've got that many local people working for you. So what happened was a new kind of ecstasy dealer appeared, just like these steroid head jock type characters that didn't look like us.
Italians, guineas.
Yes, yeah.
Gindaloons.
In the leopard print polyester shirts and the tight pants and the buzzed haircuts.
That's right.
And this was late 90s.
The gold chains and the perfume. You smell the cologne, that's where you know.
This was
They're from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn.
This is late 90s now. And I'm thinking, who are these guys, stepping on our toes?
Right.
And I was married to a woman who was bisexual. She was doing lesbian internet porn when I met her. She joined a strip club just so she could seduce this stripper that she fancied. But anyway, she was in a lesbian relationship with a female who was in a heterosexual relationship with one of these steroid head jock dealers.
Right.
So through the females, a meeting was arranged at a bar called Heart 5 in Tucson. And then I meet these guys, and one's amicable. They're playing nice and nasty. There's a Spaniard and this big 6.5-foot blonde-haired jock. And the bottom line is they want me to start collaborating with them. And I'm saying, I've got a good reputation for my presses from Holland. Why would I want to be peddling your colored pills? The big guy jumps up. Who the do you think you are disrespecting our pills? One call to Sammy the Bull and we can have you taken out to the desert.
Did you know who Sammy the Bull was?
Yeah, from the news, but I thought he was blowharded because people just throw names out all the time, don't they? I'm Russian Mafia, I'm Mexican Mafia, I know the Cartel, I know the Italian Mafia.
Did you know that Sammy was like the most famous rat in the world? That he shouldn't be doing anything?
All I knew, this is the 90s, I don't know if all that was out at that point about him. I think that all get exposed later on.
No, that was all common knowledge. Oh yeah, they had pictures of him on the stand in the front of Time magazine. Yeah,
because I was dealing with him while he was in witness protection. That's right. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to the news anymore once I went into the underworld.
Right.
So,
but you knew that he was a mobster.
Yeah, I knew about Gotti and the murders and the takeover and all that stuff. So I've got a security guy there with me who's my bodyguard, and I've previously said to him, if these guys try to kidnap me, open up on the mother. And he's saying to me as we're walking out, who are they? What are they about? And I'm like, they're claiming Sammy the Bull. And he said, wow, that's big time
mental
mafia murder, multiple murder stuff. And I said, well, the Spaniard was actually quite nice, diplomatic. And I said to them, it's not each other we want to worry about because we can sell as much as we get. That's the demand is so high. It's the feds. Since you guys have been running around, your runners are in the raves, bragging you're the biggest ecstasy barons in the world, all loud and flash. The cops are coming in, pretending to be people from out of state trying to set up bus. You've got cop cars filming license plates.
Right.
You've lit the scene up.
Yeah.
It's not each other we need to worry about. It's the feds.
Yeah. And
that's how that meeting ended. But then my top sales guy, Skinner, his real name is nickname was Schoolie, which he uses in the documentary. That's going to come out in January. His real name, anyway. He gets lured to a nightclub in Scottsdale by a faction, we assumed, of their organization. We weren't 100% sure at the time. And they take him into the men's room and take his product and knock his teeth out, take his money, take his gun, everything. So that was the point then where I realized something heavy is going on.
Wow.
So I moved then from Scottsdale to Sinvacus in the Catalina foothills in a gated guard. You can't even get up the street without security calling your house because of that threat.
Yeah.
But the history of the Gravanos getting involved in the ecstasy ring is, now bear in mind, I'm operating out of the shadows and they're trying to operate out of the shadows. So it's not like we're all volunteering who we are. So I didn't understand the dynamics at that time of what was going on. All I knew is this name had been thrown out.
Yeah.
But now I know the dynamics of it is the guy running the Ecstasy ring before the Gravanos came on the scene was a guy called Mike Papa, one of the steroid head jocks, who later turns state witness against the Gravanos and goes into witness protection himself. He brings Gerard Gravano in and Karen Gravano in.
Those are the kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sammy's not in.
Right.
Sammy is upset with the kids for being in, but he's saying to them, I'll let you do so many deals and I'll help you, but you got to get out of it. And the cops catch him saying,
oh, man,
I think they're asking for money for gas. And yeah, I'll give you 60 for gas or whatever, 60,000. But he's putting money into the Ecstasy. So that's the witness they use against Sammy.
Wow.
Yeah. So
was there a difference between the quality of Ecstasy that you had and what Sammy's crew had?
We call the pills colored wanker pills.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
And they were trying to arrange meetings with me and tax me. And I'm like, who do they think they are coming to Arizona when we're with all the locals? And I've got the New Mexican Mafia back in me.
But were their pills worse than yours?
What does worse mean?
The quality, worse.
Yeah, that's why we call them a wanker is that.
Oh, right.
It's a British term.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you called your pills that. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, our pills were tested with dance safe equipment and all that.
Right. And so you tested their pills too? You must have.
Yes.
Okay.
They were on the website, all over the website. Dance Safe had all the new pills. Every week they were updating the pills.
Wow.
Putting what's in them.
That's fascinating. So it's at one end, it's a very federally hot business. Like this is real Fed time if you get caught selling it on the distribution side.
Yeah.
But on the consumption side, Ecstasy was like the way that pot is now. Like, to put it on websites and to be able to freely test it means people aren't worried about getting caught doing it, right? Like there's like a community of Ecstasy users.
Well, the purpose of Dance Safe was to save people from taking toxic substances so they wouldn't die.
Would people take toxic ecstasy and die back then?
People have died from people putting things in ecstasy from the beginning of ecstasy.
Wow. What would people put in it?
So there's...
I know meth.
What was it? DX something was one of them, the substances. Everything from speed to rat poison.
Oh.
Yeah.
Speed wouldn't kill you necessarily, but rat poison would. Wow.
It's rare that people do die off ecstasy, but
I mean, perhaps now with fentanyl in the US, maybe that's a little more prevalent, but it's a love drug. So it seems like it would be, at least on the lower ends of the distribution, the consumption ladder, much more of a cooperative, peaceful kind of community.
We had a health minister in the UK who got fired because he publicly announced that taking ecstasy was safer than horse riding.
And it probably is.
Statistically, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so yeah, really they're selling product compared to yours. Wankers, as you say.
Well,
wankas.
Ego comes into it again back then. Whether it was or not, we would have said it was because they were our rivals.
Right. Okay, so, but it's America. Nobody can tell you where to sell. Like I said, the only people you have to worry about in America are the cops.
Yes.
And I stand by that. That's why I promise you they're bigger gangsters in Britain, because you try that gangster shit in America, we're going to come get you and we're never going to let you out. So, is there ever any other confrontations? Do you have dealers from your crew and dealers from his crew at the same raves at the same time?
So we brokered an agreement whereby they had the clubs like Access Radius in Scottsdale, and we had the raves, but if their people came, we wouldn't jack them. And if we went to their clubs, they wouldn't jack us.
Okay.
But there was so many different factions of them. So we might be dealing with this faction that's running Access Radius and have that agreement with them. But on the other extreme, another faction's knocked my mate's teeth out.
Yeah, right.
So you're never sure what's happening.
Of course.
But it got to the point where, because Gerard Gravano himself told me this story when we were incarcerated. He said they had a bounty on me and a striptease girl had called it in. I was at the Crowbar, a gay bar in Central Phoenix. We were just chilling, dancing. I had Wild Man with me, Wild Woman, G-Dog, whose brother was the New Mexican Mafia. He was like one of my bodyguards. We had Cody Bates, who was the sensible one. And they all said, look, it's getting a bit moody here. Something's not right, and we need to leave. And as they were arriving, we just left. But he told me that they were going to take me out to the desert and ransom me. And if the ransom wasn't paid, eliminate the competition.
Wow.
And partially that was motivated because he was living in the shadow of his dad. If you're a Mafia kid, you got something to prove, haven't you?
You got big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had that kind of ego and bullshit. Did you ever meet Sammy while you were?
I've never ever met Sammy or claimed to have met Sammy.
Wow.
Yeah.
But did you meet Gerard later? Or the daughter?
We found out where they lived while we were still active. I had striptease girls infiltrate their house, and we were ready to react if we were attacked.
But you're, as you say, you're like me. You're a businessman. So you were going to have other people do the dirty work.
Of course.
Yeah.
I tried it once. I didn't want to try it after that. After he got his teeth knocked out, we located a house that was linked to that. And we all just strapped up and masked up and just kicked the door in and just stormed into the house and took everything. Charging down the hall with a gun into an unknown situation. It took a lot of crystal meth and GHB for me to get my bravery up.
I bet.
But I realized I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary. Doing violence is scary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, remember
I'm not a violent person.
You know how scared you are just to get in a fight? Like when you're a teenager, think about like going to like rough somebody up for some money. Like you're a mob enforcer. Like most people can't do that. That's why that kind of violence, that shock really works, because most people can't fathom doing that to another human being. You know, this is why it takes major indoctrination to get people to go fight wars overseas and kill people. It's a real anti-human.
Which makes it even weirder as to why I was attracted to Wildman, because he was like that from the get-go. And I think looking back, and I've had therapy and stuff, I was obsessed with Marvel comics, with like the Fantastic Four and Thing. And he was like the personification of that.
Right. Okay, so it's starting to get, it's bubbling. The feud between you and the Gravanos are bubbling.
Yeah. They've got a bounty out on me. I hear there's a bounty, but I don't know what's going on. And someone tells me that they're offering 10,000 to have my head on a silver platter. That's how it was put to me back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What year is this now? 2000?
This is about 99, I think.
Right.
Around then.
Okay, so they took a fall pretty quickly. I think 99 is when he got popped.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how long did that last? Did that end with the feds busting their crew, or did you guys just kind of like work it out?
No, if there was an uneasy, like, for example, we were in Rocky Point, and I've got my route through Rocky Point, and it was a spring break, and they sold out, and they came to me to re-up.
Right.
So there was times when we were working together, and then, but other times when it just turned nasty.
Right. Yeah. Did they have where were they getting their stuff from, I wonder?
I don't know.
I wonder where, maybe LA, right? That weaker ecstasy stuff, Canadian ecstasy, whatever.
There was a lot of wanker pills coming out of LA as well. Yeah.
All right.
Maybe.
Right. Gosh. So, but things moved pretty steady for you for 5 or 6 years. That's a long run to be operating at such a high level.
Yeah. The cops said the Gravanos was like a flash in the pan.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot in a short period of time, but I was like slow and steady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have an out plan? Did you see with all this?
I thought if I fly people over from the UK and put money in their names, if I get popped, my mates can bail me out. My parents will never find out. I can off out the country. And the cops put a virus in my computer called a NetBus Trojan horse, which showed them the web of accounts. So they seized everything the day I was popped, and they popped all my mates as well. So I had no one to turn to, and I got to contact my parents then for money to get a lawyer.
Wow. How did they first get all these warrants, though? How did they start building the case?
There was a grand jury indictment of 10 witness statements. So there was the guy who owned the beachfront condo that the Wild Ones destroyed. There was a couple of Wild Ones related situations. There was some people who worked for the Gravano enterprise who were trying to get their sentences reduced by giving information about me, even though they didn't know what they were talking about. But the main witness was Skinner, my top Ecstasy sales guy who had his teeth knocked out. Because we were little brother and big brother, and Wildman wasn't there. When I brought Wildman over, it was bigger brother, and I was hanging out with Wildman more. And these are the things that can bring entire organizations down.
Petty, like jealousy over friendship, like chick stuff. That's like girl stuff, dude.
So he got so upset about Wildman that he schemed against me, and he had a firebomb launched at Wild Woman's apartment in Tempe while Wildman was in one of his federal deportation prisons. Come through the window, just missed her head. And then these Southside gangsters showed up and said, "We're with English Shaun, we'll take you to safety. Come in here, bring your product in here." They were going to rip her off. They didn't know who they were messing with. She's like, "I'm from Liverpool. I don't know you from Adam. You think I just got off the banana boat, do you? I ain't getting no car." And they just had to off.
Wow.
So Wildman then asked me to expedite his release from deportation.
Now, why is he getting deported? You never told us why.
There's so many Wildman stories, it would take 10 hours.
Sure.
Multiple houses blown up. People just getting annihilated by him. Him just robbing everything he can get his hands on. Just endless mayhem.
Okay.
Non-stop, every day.
Right.
Every day he did something.
Wow.
He'd become unhousable. Houses set on fire. Not even like threatening people, setting them on fire. Just tweaking and burning things and falling asleep.
Right.
I've picked him up on the sides of roads, covered in soot with his eyebrows incinerated, saying, "Shaun, I fell asleep, saw all this smoke. I thought it was in a Pink Floyd video." And then I realized the house was on fire. Wow. He was unhousable. He was banned from all the hotels. He had to live in Tempe Beach Park under a tree with a Rambo knife and a baseball bat at one point. Before one of his final deportations. So that was just his lifestyle.
So the answer is crack.
He would smoke crack and meth, mostly meth, more so than crack, for 2 or 3 weeks without any sleep.
Yeah.
He would go walk about and we wouldn't see him for days. He'd come back with his feet all busted up, his shoes all busted up. He'd go to the south side on one of these walkabouts, just walk into someone's house. And they'd just find him in a room in the house.
Yeah.
And he'd get arrested. They said if he went into the projects, they would kill him. And there was a period where when Wildman wasn't here, he met this black chick at a house party. Wildman's party trick was he'd sit there and say, "Does anyone want to hit me in the face as hard as they can? Or taser me?" He had a taser. And the people would line up to hit him and tase him. And he would be laughing like his toes were getting tickled. This black chick walks up to him and says, "That's nothing. I taser my." And she grabs the taser. And she's got a boyfriend there who's a big guy. And she sends him off to go and get food, the boyfriend. And then she tasers him.
Wow.
And it was love at first sight for them.
That's hot.
That was, and
So got together?
When the boyfriend came back, he said, "She's moving in with me and we're coming over to get all the stuff from yours later on." And there was a standoff and he could see in Wildman's eyes and he backed down and he left. And that was Wildman's first visit. They were like Bonnie and Clyde on the run together. Yeah.
Wow. So it's like he doesn't have any concept of like anything but the moment.
He has no concept of anything but the moment, and things that we avoid, he attracts to.
Uh-huh.
So if there's something violent, he goes to it.
Wow.
If there's danger, he goes to it.
I wish he was here today. I would love to talk to him.
Oh man, we've got about 200 videos of him on the channel. If the stories,
there you go.
Yeah,
go check out Wildman because
he lives on.
Does he explain why he became this way or what he blames?
He does give a bit of it, but he's not a blamer.
Yeah.
He takes full responsibility and has no regrets, he says.
Well, I'm sure he doesn't. Did he ever get sober?
No. Well, he was down to alcohol and weed. But like when I met him at the airport when he got deported, his request was like these big multiple liter bottles of cider, the apple beer, and some smokes. And he just glug, 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 the whole thing. He looked like a sumo. He arrived in the airport. He had long hair from prison, and this white thing all over him just looked like this crazy sumo.
You know what? They don't make characters anymore. And he's a character. That's what the internet's done. It's done a lot of great things for society, but it's made everybody kind of the same. I think it's making young kids a little stale because everybody needs to act a certain way and put on their best, face for, the internet. But it removes character from people. And this mother is a character.
That's why they loved him on YouTube, because he'd just say anything.
So he's about to get deported. Unbeknownst to you, you've got all these people coming out of the woodwork talking to the feds.
The grand jury indictment.
The grand jury indictment. Tell us about, so Skinner is his name?
So Skinner
was jealous of your friendship with him.
Yeah, with the Wild Ones.
Did he ever was that it though? That's the reason he started ratting?
Because Wild Woman was moving up the ranks and selling a lot of pills. And so there was competition with him there as well. So what he did was he firebombed her. I expedited Wildman's deportation, smuggled him back into the country. We had like Mission Impossible style teams of people bringing him in multiple times through Canada and Mexico. They got him in, and then his one-track mind is then, I am going to murder Skinner. That's all he can think about. He's doing the meth, he's doing the crack, he's going to murder Skinner. Skinner's rightfully terrified, but unbeknownst to us, he's so scared for his life, he goes to the cops and gives them the inside scoop and leaves the state. Now, I learned from a guy later on who became my cellmate called Joey Crack, who was one of my workers. This is when the Italian Mafia took over our building in Towers Jail, and they asked me who I wanted to have as my cellmate, and they put Joey Crack in with me. Joey Crack's telling us wild man stories every night, and he said that during that period of time I'm referring to, he was looking for Skinner, and he showed up at Skinner's, and Wildman was in there, and Wildman just grabbed his neck and started squeezing it, and his eyes were like popping out, and he's like, Wildman, it's me, Crack, don't kill me. Wow. And he said Wildman's sweat was just dripping off his ears and down his face, and his eyes were like the devil, and he looked around, and Wildman had every weapon known to humanity laid out, like baseball bat, knives, hammers, pincers, golf clubs, everything.
It's shocking he never got murdered,
Skinner.
Wildman. Yeah.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? Because he never used guns. Yeah. He said he didn't need a gun. So the Colombian guy that he wanted to invest in the stock market, the day Fish called me and asked me to come over with Wildman and Seth, Wildman and Seth were collecting crack debts in Central Phoenix for the Colombian.
Yeah.
And they were going in places where people had guns. And Seth told me the boss, the Colombian, said, give us your money. And they're like, we've got guns. Why should we give us your money? And Wildman's like, I don't need guns. You want to shoot me? Shoot me right now. There was a situation where he was bodyguarding, freelancing a dealer, and they went to a casino, and the dealer fell asleep in the car, and the wild man took his money and just gambled it all away right away, because money would just be gone the same day, Wildman, no matter how much you could get. The dealer got the surveillance footage from the casino and saw Wildman do that and sent a car to collect him in Tempe. And the car came and they all had guns on Wildman. They're all saying, get in the car. And he's like, why? Why should I get in the car? You're going to shoot me. I don't give a Go on, just shoot me.
Yeah.
How can you rationalize?
I don't know. I guess when you're that crazy, it's kind of like when you're supposed to act crazy on your first day in prison, because there's nothing scarier than crazy. And maybe that's even when somebody has a weapon, they'd rather just run away.
Nothing.
So
we were in a strip club, and the Dirty Dozen came in, and it was me, Wildman, and G-Dog, and his eyebrow went up like he was going to kick off with them. We had to drag him out of there. There was tons of them. They looked like Vietnam vets, scars down their faces. Right. They would have killed us.
Wow.
And he wanted to fight them. There was a giant came into a pool hall, looked like Andre, but like a cracked out version. Tall guy, skinny, giant teeth and everything. Eyebrow goes up. I'm like, Peter, don't do anything. Like he's going to listen to me. Walks over to the giant, holds his arm out. I'm Peter, what's your name? My name's this. Peter does not let go of his hand. He's squeezing it. He's looking at the guy, goes, "If I were you, I'd be in the circus, you freak." And the giant looks down and goes, "What did you just say? You heard me, I'd be in the circus, you freak." And Wildman's been up for weeks. Again, his eyes are like the devil. And the giant's looking into these devil eyes. And there's like this standoff. And the giant backed down. Took us outside, showed us his car, which was specially made. He was sitting in the back because of the length of his legs. Gave us his number and said he wanted to come kick it with us and come debt collecting.
It's wild.
That's nothing I could ever do.
Do you have any grudge against Wildman, or do you blame him for anything that happened to you?
No.
Okay.
On the contrary.
Because I would say you're a little crazy for allowing yourself to be around that for so long. Like, I don't care. Maybe I'm a little bit of a sociopath, or I'm just an American and I have less loyalty than like British guys do. And I admire that about your culture. You're a very loyal culture. I just would turn my back on somebody like that because I'm all about my bread. And I just can't be around that kind of, no offense, stupidity.
When you're on drugs, you don't see it as stupidity. It's exciting. He's like a character in a movie, like an enforcer.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Literally a character in a movie.
And it kept people paying.
Of course.
They didn't have to, Wildman didn't have to go and beat him up. He would just move in with them. Because he was so unhousable all the time, and it cost so much to house him. Right. I was grateful if someone owed me money and he could move in with them. If he moved in with you, all your furniture was getting taken out by the Mexicans to a place where furniture never comes back from. There'll be pimps and hookers cooking up crack in your kitchen. There'll be the homeless people, the gangbangers, the mafias, 24/7, just going round the clock. That was your house. Wow. Every single person he moved in with moved out, except for one woman who was very tough, this tough New Yorker, and was trained wild man up to walk her dogs and everything.
Wow. That's crazy. So Skinner tells the tale. You know, he goes to the FBI, did he? Or the DEA? Or
Tempe Police.
The Tempe Police. And then he skips town.
Yeah.
How long after that did they put the whole case together and the arrests come?
They had been investigating me since 96, 97.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that wild? What did you know they were, or was that only after you got arrested?
Didn't know anything until I saw the paperwork.
Wow.
So the witness statements on the grand jury indictment, there was 10. They spanned many years. And they said that I moved around a lot. I changed my name. I used aliases. And just when they thought they were about to figure out where I was and what I was doing, I'd disappear. That's why it took so long. So they got a wiretap authorized in the end.
Okay. And they had you tapped talking dirt?
No, not me. But it was a conspiracy. So the wild woman's phone was the main one, and it just 10,000 calls plus from that. People dropping my name. Yeah. English Shaun's Ecstasy. English Shaun's this.
Yeah. Yeah. And there you have it. That's all they need.
Yeah.
So was it a Fed case or a state case?
So the Gravano case was a multi-agency investigation.
Right.
There was a multi-agency investigation looking at me, but when they saw Gravano, that Sammy was involved, they paused me and went on him. But when they put him away, they went back to me.
Yeah.
But the feds dropped it and just let the state charge me in the end.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's what happened with my case, but this isn't nearly as organized as what you had. Why do you think they ended up dropping? The feds didn't want the case.
I think that the state my lawyer told me that the state had missed the boat. So a year before the SWAT team raids came, I'd been advised to get out of the business, and I'd met a woman, fall in love, and she was terrified of me, my friends. And I got out of the business. There was no more importation. The wiretap happened after that, primarily on Wild Woman's phone. And Wild Woman was sourcing meth and other stuff from other people. So they recorded this 10,000 calls, and the deals totaled $5,700. And I think the feds probably saw that and thought,
$5,000?
$5,700.
What does that mean? That's not anything.
Exactly. I'd stopped importing.
So you weren't selling any drugs when you got arrested?
Correct.
Wow.
Doesn't matter. Statute of limitations.
No, of course.
Yeah, 7 years.
So, but this is big because it shows, at least if I'm a judge with a little bit of like empathy, I would say, oh, you made a decision to at least try to do the right thing. What were you doing in that year? Did you get off drugs? What was your plan moving forward?
No, I couldn't get off drugs because I hadn't addressed my demons. So I was sneaking out on the weekends and getting high with Wild Man and G-Dog.
And your girlfriend didn't know?
Didn't know. Well, she knew. She suspected, yeah.
What was your plan for money? Did you have enough? Were you just trading stocks?
Stock market had collapsed.
Yeah.
I'd stopped importing. So the resources would dwindle rapidly. And we were planning to move to California because my name was so hot. I was in Scottsdale Community College. I was doing kickbox classes and going to gym, getting fit again. And then May 16th, 2002, there was a knock at my door.
By the way, what did your parents, certainly you didn't go all this time without talking to your parents. What did they think you were doing?
They flew to the house in Tucson in the mountains and saw the swimming pool and saw me stock market trading, day trading, and knew I was investing in raves, throwing raves, but not the pills.
Yeah.
And just thought everything was hunky-dory.
Wow.
But there was a situation. So I was at one house during one of their visits, and I mentioned earlier about Acid Joey, who was dancing, who hooked me up. Some grungy people came to the door that I didn't recognize, and I think I was in the living room with my parents watching like Bruce Willis Die Hard. And I see these people, and I've got a shotgun for home protection. So I say to my parents, keep watching the movie. And I thought they wouldn't see me get the gun and go to the door. And I go to the door with a shotgun and say, what do you guys want? We're looking for Acid Joey. He doesn't live here. He owes us money. He owes me money. Well, do you know where he is? Yeah, he's in San Fran trying to score. I'll tell him you guys came here and asked for him, but you shouldn't be coming here. This is where I live, and I'd appreciate if you didn't. I was like brandishing the gun, and they backed off and left. When I turned around, my parents saw me with the gun. And my mom said she was suspicious after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But that was the first time.
Yeah. But I said to them, this is Arizona. This is America. Everyone's got guns.
Yeah. Sure.
You have shotgun for home protection. People have guns in their cars. It's normal.
Yeah. I imagine your parents, I picture like the scene in Blow, because he's from like a real working class family, and he's got this mansion in Miami, and Ray Liotta, his dad, is there, and he's like, well, I hope it makes you happy, George. Like, was your dad, you come from relatively humble beginnings, even by England standards. Were your parents proud of you?
Yeah, for achieving so much in the stock market, yes.
Wow. What about your aunt? Where was she?
The one who mentored me.
Yeah, the one who, who taught you how to lie.
She eventually had to leave the country in a hurry.
Oh, and you can't talk about it?
No, she doesn't want me to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Intriguing.
She has a straight life now, so yeah.
Okay, but she was investigating fraud back in the day. How is that illegal?
She was employed by a company to bust fraud.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean she didn't herself.
Who's the best fraudsters? People busting the fraudsters?
Yeah. Fraudsters themselves.
The fraudsters who are busting the fraudsters are the best fraudsters.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, jeez. God, now my head's spinning. Yeah. Fraudsters who bust the fraudsters are themselves the best fraudsters.
Yeah.
And vice versa. The fraudsters who get busted. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
They know every trick.
But she got out of the country.
Yes.
Did she know during this time your run? Did she know what was
happening? None of my family members knew about anything.
Oh, she'd already left or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And she's the one who brought you over and is responsible.
I used to stay with, and she used to mentor me when I was starting out in the stock market.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you think if you would move back to California, seeing as how your money was dwindling and you were bringing some of your members of your crew out there, you were probably going to gear up to do something again?
Who knows what would have happened? Because I hadn't addressed my issues. That took incarceration and sobriety and therapy and reading philosophy and psychology.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. First of all, you get arrested as the leader of this conspiracy. You're facing 200 years.
Not initially. Initially, I've got a dozen charges, and they classify me as serious drug offender status, which is 25 to life.
Right. Okay.
So they're saying 100 plus 25 to life. It's the second year they bump it up to 200 because I get a new indictment.
Oh, okay. So you're in jail fighting the case,
for
right?
26 months.
Because you're an illegal immigrant. There's no bail. You got a no bail hold.
My bail was $750,000 cash only.
Oh, Shocked they even gave you that.
They probably wouldn't in this day and age.
Yeah.
And then later on, when I asked for bail reduction, they doubled it to 1.5 million cash only.
So you didn't make it. Not then.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the second indictment they surprised you
Just
with?
another dozen charges, similar. They also indicted my girlfriend to stop her from visiting me, and they indicted my wife. So my girlfriend was my lifeline. She was visiting me 3 times a week. They charged her for having a prescription pill without a written prescription right next to it, which is a class 6 felony. And co-defendants can't visit co-defendants. So it was all about breaking me down psychologically.
Yep.
In Gravano's case, there was 57 people arrested, and they all rolled over quite quickly. In my case, we were all fighting it. We had a lawyer from the New Mexican Mafia as our united front, and over the 26 months, only 4 people cooperated.
Wow.
Which is really impressive because we were so loyal and bonded.
Because there were how many people in your indictment?
First indictment in the first group, I think, was about a dozen, 12 or 13.
Okay.
But there was multiple groups.
Right.
Yeah.
And those dozen or so, those were the distributors giving it out to those groups, right?
They said these were the heads of the continuous criminal enterprise.
Right.
But they weren't. They weren't. Some of them were.
Uh-huh.
They had me number 1,
Yeah.
Wild Woman number 2, and Wild Man number 3.
Wow. And
Yeah.
but Wild Man's already out. No, he's back because you got him back in. You snuck
Yeah,
him
we were
back
all
in.
arrested on the same day.
Yeah.
He was a good man to get arrested with because when we arrived at the jail, we're in a van, 12 of us, half men, half women, and it's a subterranean entrance where all the new arrestees are lined up. So you got like gangbangers, homeless, people who've been fighting the cops, people drunk, and you got like, I think they were like, looked like sex workers, and the drunks were heckling the sex workers and stuff. And they see our female co-defendants get off the van, and they all start heckling the females. And Wild Man's watching this on the van. And I see the eyebrow go up. His face just remains completely calm. So by the time he's getting off the van, the redneck cop's telling him to get down, and he's not getting down. And he looks at all of the, the men in the queue heckling the women, because Wild Woman's getting heckled, and she's not happy. She usually would say something, but she was just having a bad day. So he's looking at the men off this top step. He's like, "You lot disrespecting our women. I'm going to be in there with you all in a minute, and I'll f***ing have any of you." And then just to emphasize the fact, he raises his chin right up and he goes, "You think I won't?" And the veins are popping out of his head. Wow. And they all just shut the f*** up.
You just channeled him. Do you do that with every podcast?
No.
Wow.
I think I've just brought my larynx.
Wow. That's when you say, like, you said something very deep and very earlier. You said you felt like you were him and he was you.
Like our minds were thinking as one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's amazing.
Like we knew if there was a situation unfolding, what was about to happen. I knew what he was about to do, and he knew what I was thinking.
Just because you'd known him your whole life.
Yeah, and we were in so many situations like that.
Did you think you were going to get a plea deal, or did you expect to, by the end, when all the evidence came out, the second indictment, did you think you may get 25 to life in an awful Arizona state prison, which I can't even imagine?
All of the above. You go through cycles of worry and hope.
Yeah.
The lawyer came about because when I was getting stuff from the guy, the lowrider house with the rocket propelled grenade launcher, he schooled me. Remember, prior to that, I was speeding along in the RX. He said, if you ever get pulled over leaving our house, tell the cops when they ask to search your vehicle, no, because you're in a hurry. You've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
They don't have the right to search your vehicle. If they don't have probable cause, it's the fruit from the forbidden tree, and they can't hold it against you. But if you're really getting deep, you need to call this guy. He's a loophole lawyer. He's expensive.
Right.
Now, I'd put money at the side for this guy if it came to that, but they took it. So my parents remortgaged the house.
Oh, they must have been devastated.
It was devastating, yeah. To pay this guy. I'd still be in prison if it wasn't for him, this lawyer.
Wow. Okay, what was the loophole? This is fascinating. That's why I love the legal system, especially in America.
So every month I'm going to court. I never get to speak. The prosecutors portray me to be the Antichrist. And my lawyers portray me to be this child protege stock market genius kid thing. none of it's true.
Right.
It's just theater. The truth's somewhere in the middle.
That's right.
Every month this is going on, and all emotions are going against me completely. And in the end, I think it got a bit stale because the detective was really pushing hard, and there was a dispute at my final sentencing. He found a loophole for foreign non-violent offenders. It was called a half-time release, which would apply to the balance of my sentence after I was sentenced. So I've done 26 months on remand.
Yeah.
If I get sentenced, I was sentenced 9.5 eventually. I would only have to do 5 3/4. But when the detective heard that at the sentencing hearing, when all these people had flown all over the world to speak on my behalf, when we've gone through the fighting this for 26 months and we think it's over, when the detective heard that, he freaked out.
Lost his mind, yeah.
And the judge took my lawyer and the prosecutor away for a discussion. And we're all, oh my God, what's going to happen now? And when he came back, he said the plea bargain stands. And that was that.
That's the law.
Yeah.
That is amazing. It's like so many people we've talked to have been locked up, drug mules in South America.
Yeah.
This is kind of the U.S.'s version of that, but they have something in the law saying, yeah, if you're foreign and you get caught, we're going to give you a relatively light sentence and just kick you out of our country. We'd rather have you not using our resources or be in our great nation, if I dare say so myself, at all.
Thank God for that.
Thank God for the USA. The USA both ruined and saved your life.
Totally.
How was that? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Were you singing Zippity Doodah out of your asshole?
When you go from facing 200 years to getting sentenced to 9.5, it's the happiest day of your life.
Yeah.
I was floating on the ceiling of the
A new
courtroom.
lease on life.
Yeah. I could see when I was going to get out.
Okay. So 9.5, you've been in there 2.5, right?
26 months.
Yeah. Oh, so 2. And you ended up doing what, an extra
5 3/4 total.
Okay, so you did an extra 3.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on the Patreon. I'm not as interested in the prison stuff from you as I am in you. It just doesn't make any sense. Talk to me, baby. Talk to me. What was the trauma? What were the issues? What from your rainy little town south of Liverpool, what did it to you? There's so much trauma in this country.
Yeah.
What is it about you? Like you had the world by the balls, you know? And I know drug addiction played a huge part in that, but where does drug addiction come from? It comes from all these, what you've been masking your whole life. So can you explain what you were able to work out later?
I don't think I can ever explain it fully because it's too complex, the psychodynamics. I can distill it down to some simple theories from the therapist, but I also want to say that the world hates a whiner and you can't blame these things on your behavior. I take full responsibility for what I've done.
Of course.
So what the therapist said was I had social anxiety as a teenager. There was a situation where I just passed my driver's license test, went to fill up my mum's little red car with petrol. 4 drunks started to behave abusively towards me. That movie Rambo had just come out and I thought it was brave to stand up to them. Big mistake. These are like 20-something-year-olds, rugby player-sized guys.
Yeah.
I'm encircled. They got me on the floor, kicking my head in. One's got an iron bar, smashes me in the face. You see these lovely veneers here?
Yeah.
They knocked the bottoms of my teeth out with this iron bar.
Wow.
And
an Englishman, those teeth are way too straight for an Englishman.
American dentistry. So I'm laying there in a fetal position and I can't feel them hitting me anymore. So I think they stopped, saw up my eyes, and they're still pulverizing me. And I'm thinking, they just beat me up. I feel like I'm about to die. I thought they were trying to murder me.
Yeah.
So I went unconscious and I woke up in this pool of blood and they smashed my car windows. I went to hospital. All that was broken was my teeth. I was fine, and ribs and stuff was hurt. But after that, then I wouldn't dance. I wouldn't talk to people. I was really like social anxiety was increased. And then when Ecstasy started, I wouldn't stop dancing. I wouldn't stop talking to people and making friends with strangers all night long. So I was self-medicating to become social for over 10 years. But I didn't understand that at the time.
Yeah. And you were taking your power back, like by being, you're so powerless being assaulted like that by adults when you're only 15. I think, you know, my amateur opinion, you being this ecstasy kingpin, you know, controlling all these people, it's perhaps the reason. It's kind of you asserting power again.
The power, the thrill.
Yeah.
You got wild man next to you. You walk in the club. The bouncers are looking at you like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
You get the Mexican mafia helping out this English immigrant. What?
You're in a movie.
Yeah. You're in a movie. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And you had these just wild, you know, kind of circumstances of luck that, you know, ecstasy was popping at the time and you could make money out of it, and your aunt bringing you over. It's
when I sobered up in the jail and the cloud lifted out of my head that I didn't know was there, and I looked back, I could not understand how I was alive and how I'd put myself in these environments and in these dangerous situations and got away with it. It made me shiver from a sober perspective that I'd done that. The house of the New Mexican Mafia, the grenade launcher. It came on the news when they all got busted, all the murders they'd done.
Yeah.
It was serious, like murder machine stuff.
Wow.
Going down to Mexico, where there's the cartel,
Yeah.
and I've just got the wild ones running amok to pave the way. It's just all insane, but somehow it worked and I got through it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just an innocent guy. You're just a guy having some fun.
Boy next door.
Yeah, you're just a boy next door made good, dude. Made good. And you're a cool guy. You like to have fun back then.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
I would have liked to party with you. You know?
Yeah,
Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's so thank you for saving that for the end. That makes more sense now. So you've been back for almost 20. That's amazing.
So it got released December 2007. But my blog, my internet presence started in 2004. My writing was smuggled out of the maximum security Madison Street jail run by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was world famous for being America's toughest sheriff.
Infamous.
Yeah, so writing about the cockroaches, the dead rats in the food, the guards murdering prisoners, the gangs murdering prisoners, all that stuff. My aunt smuggling it out. It got picked up by the was it the Independent? No, the Guardian newspaper and the BBC.
Yeah.
2004, that was my first internet presence.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you loved it. It seemed like, because you still, 20 years later, you know, it seemed like you would love to create.
Well, the channel we created in 2007, I was released December 2007. And we started to do videos like how to survive Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail.
Yeah.
I wasn't posting very often, but that's when it's began.
Have you since met Sammy the Bull? You must have.
No, I've never met him.
You've never had him on your show?
We were banned from collaborating by the documentary makers until the documentary comes out. And it's been pushed back twice. It's now January. We have got a podcast scheduled and advertised on my channel that keeps getting pushed back, which will be our first.
Wow.
I've communicated with the son over the years, but not the dad.
I got his info. You want it?
Who?
Sammy's.
Yeah, I've got it, but I'm not allowed to collaborate with him. Yeah.
So you're about to meet him in January after almost.
Not meet him because I can't go there and he can't come here.
Well, you'll talk over the the airwaves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
People think he was running that ring. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He was a big name. They could get a medal off by putting him away, and
he just got by his name.
He did. Yeah.
I mean, you look. He shouldn't have. If you dodge what was certainly going to be life without parole in a maximum security federal prison, you better just like not talk about ever talk on a phone again.
Don't behave like OJ.
Yeah, exactly. That was his OJ moment.
Yeah.
Like, they got OJ on some for, retribution, payback.
Yeah.
For, and they gave him 10 years. And I think they gave Sammy that too, right? They gave him
on the Ecstasy.
Yeah.
I think he got 15 at least.
Yeah. It's brutal. Yeah. Both the systems. I tend to talk a lot of about the British system after doing now 10 podcasts this week and just hearing how corrupt it is. But America's the same way. Like, they have enough law that's run by human beings that who have grudges, who have egos, who want to make headlines. They have enough to where they can you in a way that it basically is corruption. You know what I mean?
It's human nature, corruption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and cruelty. But you've really, man, you've built a life for yourself, dude.
Thank you.
That is unreal, man. How long did it take you to maintain your sobriety, get to this like this place of higher consciousness, and you meditate all the time and do yoga, and you've got a beautiful family and, you know, a newborn son.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that take after coming home back to
First
England?
year, I'm at my parents' house. I'm on the dole, which means you're an employment benefit.
That's welfare.
Yeah, they're telling me that I need to go on meds because I did do some meds while I was incarcerated because it's insane, isn't it? And it makes you insane.
Yeah.
And I told them that I'm out of prison now. I don't need to do the meds. They said, that's grandiosity. We need to double your meds.
Jesus Christ.
Wild man gets out and tells them he needs the meds. And he's got red dots in his head telling him to hurt people. They tell him, you're making that up so you can just have better benefits. And there's nothing wrong with you, completely normal. Remember that my mom was like, I'm normal. They said I was normal. So I'm on the dole at my parents' house the first year. Now, one of my ecstasy suppliers out of LA was a DJ called Mike Hot Wheels. It became one of my closest friends. He got busted by the feds. So he got deported a few years before me. He ended up with a nice house in Surrey. And I moved from my parents to his house. And I lived in his bedroom for 10 years, building my socials and writing my books.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's like self-imposed prison almost.
It was. Well, I was discussing this with Jen the other night because we were describing how I went from that space to the same space.
Yeah.
Because that's all I needed was that kind of a space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So coming from living lavish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big houses and fast cars and this big open, hot expanse of the Arizona landscape, right? To this rainy rock that is England and a tiny little bedroom with nothing. When you didn't have to, you could have tried to get a job on whatever Britain's Wall Street is. You could have taken something more traditional, but you were able to just leave that all behind.
Yeah.
Like you seem like you mentally got over it, losing all that lifestyle pretty quickly. Am I right about that?
The first year I was incarcerated, I was craving the lifestyle back.
Mm-hmm.
When they told me I was facing 200 years, there came a crunch point. I was in max security, living with the cockroaches, skin infections, bed sores, dead rats in the food.
Mexicans.
Hundreds of degrees, what's the heat out there? 120, 130. There's no air coming in. It got to the point where I was thinking, I've got to spend the rest of my life like this. I might as well just kill myself. And I planned to after I guarded the security wall and just bleed out with the cockroaches. But before I was going to do it, I wanted to say goodbye to my family and friends. And I remember I was allowed 7 photos. So I've got the photos of my mom, dad, girlfriend, sister. And I started crying. There's tears coming, thinking my mom's going to get a call saying your son's in this foreign jail. And I couldn't bear the thought of putting her through that. And then a prisoner limps into my cell the next day, steel rod in his leg, pins. He's got hepatitis C. He's got syphilis. He's got stomach cancer. And he's going to die in a couple of years. And he's telling me his story. And I was thinking, I was feeling so sorry for myself last night. I was going to kill myself. Listen to him. And what it meant, what I'm getting at is the $1 million house on the mountain and the plasma screen TV didn't matter anymore. The swimming pool, the jacuzzi didn't matter anymore. I went from being this narcissistic, hedonistic party person, the wolves are howling for me to go back and do it, to thinking, I just want my life back and I want to start helping these people who are around me, who are suffering. A third of them couldn't even read or write. I want to start articulating their situation. And the blog began then from that drive to expose what was going on in Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail. My mum didn't want me to do it. There were so many people murdered in that jail. It had, Nat Geo researched it, 57 people died over 5 years around the time I was there. Wow. Guards murdered a blind prisoner. They murdered a mentally ill prisoner. People can Google Brian Crenshaw, Scott Norberg. So my mum didn't want me to do the blogging.
Right.
But we decided to do it. And like I said, my aunt smuggled it out. People can go back. It's all timestamped till to this day and read my original entries. It's called John's Jail Journal, JONS Jail Journal. So what I'm trying to get at is...
It sounds like helping people is what.
Activism and helping people. It put me on this mission
Yeah.
to expose what was going on. Because I thought America, one of the most civilized countries in the world, how can they be? I'm not saying prison should be easy, but guards murdering a blind prisoner, a mentally ill prisoner, gang members murdering prisoners, guards just bringing the drugs in, having prisoners fight and just watching, making bets on who's going to win. It's just like this netherworld that I didn't think could exist. So it put me on a mission that I've still been on to this day, you know, writing all the books. When I got out, my series of books was based on deconstructing the war on drugs and mass incarceration.
Yeah, you have 17 books. So
17.
if you don't know Shaun, a lot of our listeners and viewers will know who you are. But if they don't, Shaun is a prolific author. He's got 17 books. Where can they get them?
All my books, all my socials, my YouTube, it's all under Shaun Attwood. If you go on Amazon, ebooks, audiobooks, paperbacks, just put Shaun Attwood, it'll all come up.
Is there one book in particular that they should start with? You know,
Party Time.
Okay, cool. Go check out Party Time.
And then there's Hard Time is Sheriff Joe's Jail. And then Prison Time is Department of Corrections.
Okay. This is fascinating. We'll talk about that on the Patreon, Hard Time.
Okay.
Because that was national news after that scandal broke out. Fascinating. But yeah, that's amazing. That is an amazing, almost religious moment that you had with that guy there. And, you know, if you believe in fate or you believe in the power of the universe, he was that moving force, right? That divine intervention, rather.
Him and the prosecutor up in the ante, getting me facing 200 years. Yeah. The pressure every month of going to court and it just increasing, the sentence increasing. Yeah. It gets to the point where something in your mind just snaps, and that the English Shaun, this character, this persona, you're not thinking about that anymore. Yeah. All you're thinking about is getting your life back.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we are the baddest gangsters in America, from the government down to the people, you know, doing the killing inside of our jails.
Yeah.
Shaun, that was amazing. Thank you for that.
Thanks for coming all this way, brother.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for everything, dude.
Cheers.
Seriously. You were one of the inspirations for my channel. So
thank you.
So check him out, Shaun Attwood, on everything, SHAUN. And we're going to switch over to the Patreon now for a little bit more with Shaun. Patreon.com/TheConnectShow. Shawnee, thanks, buddy.
Cheers.